the recording, so I will record now, and because this is important, because the reason I remembered it now is because we have one teacher of our team. We have 13 coaches in our program, and one of them is an expert on hydroponics and growth in general and so forth. He just joined us this year. He was supposed to be here today, but he couldn't join. And he also is coaching a new school that aims to focus on hydroponics. They are in Kfar Saba, and excellent, students, and they will be thrilled with working on that. They are not at school now, so they don't have a system in place, but in fact, Veer and this fellow Karam and myself, we were just taking virtual reality videos in a major hydroponic facility in Tel Aviv on a high riser. So we will be able to share on that. So that's a wonderful topic and suitable for youngsters because they are sixth graders as well. So same age group and same subject, so it would be convenient. And that does not exclude us from working with the class in Ashkelon, but I think the class in Ashkelon is more suitable for the eighth graders because they are older. They are 8th or 9th graders in Ashkelon in that school, and so that would be more suitable and it would be more multidisciplinary. All right, so we have one group doing hydroponics, and we can at least connect them with one school in Kfar Saba. And what is nice about it is that both activities are supported by the Rotary clubs and so forth. So that relationship matches with yours, and it's very nice. And we have Rotarians that are very, very involved in that school, much like what you have in Donna Klein. So it's wonderful. So this is one match that makes sense. I think you will have, in fact, as surprisingly as it is, I think you may have more to show in practice because you are at school, whereas our school is not, and they're doing some theoretical studies and some simulation and so forth. But it would become a very interesting collaboration because they will be able to see what you have, and so that would be a nice thing. So we have that covered, and I'm sure they have a science teacher that teaches them about nutrition and about water and the resources and what have you. So that's okay. What we can add to that, which I think is very relevant, an area that we have covered and tried a number of times, is the different types of water and how it affects the growth. And primarily this relates to the fact that we do a lot of wastewater reclamation and we use the water for irrigation of agriculture. So that use of reclaimed water is a major thing in Israel, and it's an innovation that's spread around the world. So it's very considered here, and we are putting a lot of effort into it. And usage of reclaimed water for agriculture is not trivial. It is far from trivial. So we can address that subject as well and see how it affects the hydroponics when you use different types of water. So this is number one. All right. What's in the planning for the 8th graders?
Okay, and then in 8th grade, so 8th grade, the focus is on chemistry and also physics. And part of that, we were going to do a unit on the...
And I didn't follow you. Chemistry and
physics.
Physics, okay. Chemistry and physics, excellent, yeah. Okay.
And so we wanted to focus on teaching them the properties of water, as well as I thought with the 8th grade, it would be a great opportunity to talk about not only the makeup of water, because they're learning right now about, you know, even the elements and how they're bonded together. And so they'll get the chemistry side of water and then understanding the unique properties of water and then bringing in the desalination. And I thought that's where we could really also focus on the chemistry behind what needs to happen in order for that desalination and the success that Israel has had in being able to really be the front runner in what that is all about.
Okay, all right, excellent. Okay, so here's what I suggest. This is, first of all, you're right. Chemistry and physics, you can work well. See, let me pause here for a minute and give you just a one-liner about the concept. We are trying to make our studies or our teaching not as extracurricular material, but rather try to bind it to the curricula. So we are looking for topics that are within the curricula that could be served by studying water and so forth. So relative to chemistry and physics, there are two special subjects that are related. Obviously, as you said, quality of water, the pH, the turbidity, the salinity, all of those features of water are basic chemistry. The state, going from ice to water to liquid, solid to liquid to gas and so forth, we treat this lovely. And so this is inherent physics and it is inherent water. So it's lovely. And that's well addressed in our program. And I'm sure that you have enough background material on the states of matter and the transition and what have you. So that's number one. We have a wonderful presentation on that you will find exciting because it relates to the transition of water in Jerusalem. And so it's really lovely. And it is not translated, but you'll be able to translate it. But we show Jerusalem with the mosque and the Wailing Wall and the church and snow and fog and rain all together. So you have, it's really lovely. It's really very unique. So yes, so this is one subject. Then of course, all the business of water quality from pH to salinity, things that you can actually assess and measure in school and demonstrate are obviously something very relevant. And of course, immediately you can relate with that to the quality of water as it's provided in Boca Raton and Coral Spring and so forth, which is reported by the utilities. And so right away, they can see how this is applied. And this is so critical in terms of STEM that we don't just go to the lab, but we rather show them how it relates to their life. And if they do that, then of course we will be able to connect them with many schools that do a lot of work. In fact, we just this morning talked about a survey of water quality that is going to be done by one class. And this is a typical subject and many classes will relate to it. And that's number one. Number two is this question of desalination. And the desalination relates to what you suggested in physics and in chemistry in two ways, and I will elaborate a little bit. But before I do, I want to emphasize that we translated for you 4 or 5 key presentations aside from the overview of the program, which I hope we will get to, but I really wanted to push it to the back specifically so that we can have this discussion first. But the idea is that we provided 4 or 5 basic presentations on how we apply desalination, for instance, as a basis for STEM. So it's not just the principles of STEM and of desalination, but how do we actually do it in school with the visits and so forth. And so it boils down to reverse osmosis and pumping at high pressure. And so it relates very much to membrane, the reverse osmosis. So you have chemistry, and then you have pressure and physics and the power that's required to operate the pump, the electrical consumption, the energy that goes in, and so forth. One should know that it is extremely highly energy consumer, consumer in the country. In fact, 4% of all the energy in Israel goes to desalination. Imagine, this is an amazing number, 4%. And it is amazing on the double, because what happens is it would have been naturally more like double that, almost 8%, but given unique techniques that are applied in terms of recovering part of this energy in the desalination plant is what makes it feasible, economical, and doable. And also in terms of environmental damage, it is less of a burden, because 8% would have been devastating, because this is all fossil energy and devastating for the environment. So all of these elements are put into the STEM training, including some experimentation. We actually show the children membrane and let them do some experimentation. But the point is that we have actually made a presentation in English of just that topic. So you have it in that depository that we provided. The intent was not that you would use this specifically, although you are most welcome to do it, of course, but the idea was that we will provide you 4 like this on desalination, on reclamation of wastewater, on modern irrigation, on prevention of leakages and so forth, so that you can take a look at that and see how we apply those real life challenges and solutions as base for STEM curricula that relates to the curricula and to your program, because you don't want to just teach them, you know, things that are not connected to the curricula, because otherwise the time that you can invest is limited. If you are dealing with physics and you're dealing with energy and force, time, distance is work, and what is energy, and these are things that are in the curricula, so that when you do it, you know, it's relevant. You don't feel like you're wasting time on an extracurricular program. So this is what those 4 or 5 presentations that we provide you do. They show you how we do it on those topics. It just so happens that in terms of what you want to address on physics and chemistry, desalination is a good example. So you can actually dive into it and use the presentation itself. And of course, we can support you. And obviously, there will be plenty of schools that can work with you on that, including, of course, the school in Ashkelon. Another thing that is most meaningful in that respect is the fact that we have added recently, and this is something that you can consider, you don't necessarily have to do it, but it's something that Vir and myself are working on, that we find to be extremely helpful. And this is using the Lego family of products based on robotics, which is related to as EV3, but mostly what they call a Lego Mindstorm. And it has what they call renewable energy demonstration kit. That is a kit that is, you know, it's not too costly, a couple of $100, you know, the basic robot, and a couple of $100 that unit, but you can actually do wonders with that. And we are developing curricula based on that, and that would be very easy for you to also practice. Just buy that equipment and you can do it. The reason I mention that is because this relates very closely to desalination and to physics. And we will be practicing this. So you can do it, but again, you do not have to do the same thing. It's an opportunity, but you can do something else. Eventually, we will have a class that will work with that, obviously with Vir in Ashkelon, and they will be able to show you what they produce with that. So you can hold off and buy it next year and experiment, or you will have a demonstration of how we teach this as really high level STEM based on desalination and on equipment with hands-on experience. So I think this is a lovely subject. Desalination is subject that will be addressed everywhere. So that's an excellent subject. We will probably also have classes in Jerusalem, Arab classes, where it would be very interesting because of the cultural difference to have them interact. And some of them will be studying wastewater reclamation or prevention of leakage. But that is okay, because then towards the end of the year when they meet, you will present whatever you did, and then you can hear from them what they studied, for instance, on ancient water supply to Jerusalem or the prevention of leakage. So we will align that. So in terms of time schedule and the way we conduct this, we had a couple of meetings with the teachers, say in Romania, and this relates to this outline of the program, where we suggest to them to actually, let me maybe open up this. This is becoming particular. How much time do you have, girls?
Amnon, we have less than 10 minutes as we have to get ready for our
okay.
or other meetings.
Okay, so I will suggest the following then. Do look at the presentation that I sent you today of the twinning program because it is very revealing. It is very simple and explicit, and it tells you what we do and those areas that we suggest that you use as an example. You have a link to the content which I sent you. Now, what we do in practice is we team up with your teachers and had a couple of meetings, a Zoom meeting, like 1 hour Zoom meeting, maybe 2 or 3 meetings like this, where we lay out the program, we show them the presentation, we lay out the plan, and we tell them basically the following. Number 1, select subject, which obviously you have selected, and I think you've done wonderful in terms of selecting the subject. And number 2, which you already did as well, and we can help on that as well, find out how these topics relate to the curricula so that you don't find yourself doing some work on an exotic subject, but you're wasting time vis-a-vis the curricula, especially in these COVID days where your days in school are very numbered and are precious. So you want to be focused on what you want to achieve in physics, and there's no problem at all to talk about Newton's law of gravity and motion and what have you, and do this with physics of the desalination plant, because there is pumping and so forth. So number 2 is find the connection to the curricula. Number 3 is try to find a connection to a local utility, water provider, academia that deals with the subject, a technology company, someone that was involved in the industry. I know, for instance, in the Boca Raton downtown Rotary Club, there are at least 2 members that are water professionals. Find some connection to real professionals from the field that you can interact with. Either go visit a water supply facility, or have an engineer from a water system come and talk to the children, or whatever it is that's easy for you. Connect with the real world so that, and if you don't have anything to do with, the authority, the government authority, controlling water quality, the city authority and what have you. But if you don't have that, you can just go ahead and do some experimentation at home with the water aerator, or examine the water quality at home and what have you. But try to come up with a connection to the real world. And then once you do that, we will think with you, and apparently you are already down the line and you have a plan, which is wonderful, as to how to apply, say for instance, desalination as a basis for studies. So you have that presentation that lays it out for you exactly. And with the teachers, we will go over this presentation, answer some questions, and then work with them and discuss with them what they can do in the class, what they can do at home, what could a product be, what could a research subject be, or if they want to build a model or solve a problem or devise a better way of solving it, whatever. We will try to work with the teachers to find out what they can actually do as a research topic with the students. Now, we usually do not come to the classroom frequently. We allow the teachers the room to really take full advantage of the program. We do come, incidentally, once or twice, say for an opening class or something of the sort of what I did when I visited you last February. So this is certainly something to consider if you would want us to come, to be present through Zoom and tell you a little bit about what we do in something that relates. We can't do it too frequently, but once or twice, that is certainly a possibility. And we can tell you about the classes that you'll be working with or so forth, maybe answer some questions for the students and so forth. So that is also in the making. Okay, when we're done with that, you will have time, of course, to do your work. And we will be there to answer any questions either through mail or once every few weeks on Zoom. But we would expect you to have some sort of a product. You can define what it is, a presentation, a show, a video clip, a PowerPoint, whatever you, the children, feel comfortable with, and have it ready for exchange. And when we are ready, Of course, we will start to build up the relationship with the school in Israel earlier. So you will know the teachers first, and gradually, like we're doing now, we will gradually increase the level of connection. And then eventually you can send over some sort of a product. You will be receiving a similar product or report from the schools in Israel. And we will ask you to, voice your opinion, to read it, to critique it, to provide your suggestion and so forth, as will the class in Israel do. So you will have a two-way exchange where you provide what you think of water in Florida, and they will tell you what they think of water in Gedera or Ashkelon. And then you will also, report to each other what you think of work, whether it was revealing, whether you agree or you disagree, you have a different point of view, or what can be done together next year with that and so forth. So you will have a basis. Now, based on that, we will have room for actual interaction using Zoom and email and what have you. Now it will be the time to do it, because it will not be just a waste of having the two classes looking at the camera, waving in their hands and hello, and we are the class from Don Clay, and we are the class from Ashkelon, and that exhausts itself in a few minutes. We really wanted to be thorough and based on some work they did. And so that's what we plan. And of course, we will be very, very flexible in the sense that this is a pilot. With you people, we worked more than with other schools in the past, but we still never did a pilot like this, specifically where it is step-by-step working together. So we will have to learn as we go along. Some of the things we have envisioned in our mind will probably be completely wrong, and other opportunities will present itself. So we will adapt accordingly. So this is basically our plan. The goal is that by March 22nd, the International Water Day, we would then have an international event with Zoom, with all the schools present and so forth. In the presentation I sent you, you have a sample of an event like this that we did already last year in March. We realized we couldn't have it in physical form. So we had a virtual event that encompasses two components. On one hand, you have a set of a few minutes, 2-3 minutes, YouTube clips of each and every work, like in the science fair. And you have a 1.5 hour interview with all the teachers and the team, which is like walking in the exhibition. So we would try to do something like this, probably compose it better and have some prizes and so forth. So that's on the 22nd of March. So we would want the interaction to be done, beginning of March before that. I think this is basically it. I can see that we are exhausting the time, and but we've covered everything. Unless you have any questions or our guys, I think we're ready to conclude.
Any questions? I think we're good. I'm really looking forward to looking through the presentations and our next meeting where we can continue to just move forward with our action plan.
Excellent, very good. So choose the teachers that you want involved, and the next thing we do, we will have a session with the teachers. I would say maybe in 2 weeks' time, and we'll spend an hour going over and have them go over the material, and we will be more specific with the teachers.
So Amnon, Ellen, in addition to her role as the principal of the middle school, she's also the department chair for the science in the middle school. So she will be your contact person to schedule meeting with her department, which we discussed also before. It's a great opening session for all of you to get together once Ellen will tell you that she's ready. And the other thing that I would like to ask you is if you can just send me the names of the schools in Ashkelon and in Kfar Saba and the names of the principals, so we will know who we are planning to communicate with.
Okay, we will start to do that very well.
Okay. I have to start the class and I'm using this computer. So I wanted to thank you for your time. Amazing.
Yes, thank you very much.
Looking forward.
Okay.
תודה לרם, לדביר ולאדם. Have a wonderful evening.
And good luck in your election today. You guys you specifically in Florida of all places, are at the heart of it.
Thank you.
Yes, thank you.
Good
Good
luck.
luck and stay safe.
Bye,
Thank
Tada.
you.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. Thank you very much.
אוקיי, טוב.
להתראות, אמנון.
נורא, אבל תודה רבה חבר'ה, ביי ביי.